Everything is about sustainability here. Hi, I'm Sharon. I live here in Mullumbimby and I practice and I'm very passionate about permaculture. I think my definition of permaculture has changed as I mature, and I guess now permaculture is a way for all people to grow food, engage in change for their world, engage with other people, and create a more interconnected world. We have 3 ethics in permaculture, which are, pretty much universal: people care, earth care, and fair share. And fair share is all about, making sure that our kin, the people around us, have everything they need, but then extending our influence out to caring for others. Yeah, so I started off as an activist, and then when I had kids, I found myself at home. I knew I wanted to provide a loving home for my kids, good quality food. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mum, and actually getting involved in permaculture was just about me being able to stay active, being able to still engage in activism in some way. And then I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the design aspect, but mostly with the community. I became involved in starting the local community garden, which was an amazing experience, and as well as growing food and running my own little property here where we grow food, we share food, and we share ways to grow food. We produce most of our food on this 1/4 acre block. We produce way more food than we need. We grow all our own veggies, we grow our own legumes, so we can make our own tofu and tempeh, things like that. We grow our own meat, so we have chickens and ducks. We grow a lot of perennial vegetables that are really hardy, long-lived, sort of climate-ready plants that don't need to be watered. They sort of look after themselves and they produce a lot of food. So we sort of steer away from lettuces and silver beet and, those vegetables that maybe need a lot of care, a lot of water, and pests love them. We don't eat that sort of stuff. Permaculture guides us to look to nature. Nature has the best systems, the most efficient systems, the most sustainable systems. So a lot of those 3 things are based on using waste materials to create fertility in the soil. Compost is everything. Compost feeds the soil, protects the soil, it looks after the microorganisms that live in the soil, and it's doing what nature has always done. I live in a small town. I collect food waste from local restaurants and cafes, grass from the side of the road, collecting manures, bakery waste, fish waste, all of that stuff goes into composting here and creating good soil. There is no actual best material for compost. The best material is something that's going to be polluting somewhere else. I have a back lane and I invite neighbours to drop off their food scraps and lawn clippings and any other sort of food related waste that I can use in my compost. And certainly there's neighbours that like to be dealing with their waste more responsibly, but it just fosters a sense of us getting to know each other, and definitely I feel like we can call on each other more and help each other more because of that. I was part of a compost education program through our local council, and we hear from a lot of people that they were trying to compost and it just wasn't working. And what happened after the program, where we taught people how to compost well as helping them with their composting problems, is that we had a 20% improvement in composting in our town, 22%, which was quite amazing. I mean, in my own house, sure, it deals with all our waste, fantastic, but also the waste that we collect from around the town, all of that doesn't end up in landfill just because our little block is collecting it. So it wouldn't take much at all for all the organic waste in our town to be composted locally and put back into the soil to grow food. Food and growing food has always been a connecting thing for for different people, for cultures around the world, and continues to do that. I know it certainly brings that for me. I tend to share my excess with, people within my life, and that, gives me some social equity. So, I'll do a lot of bartering with people. People who come in and out of my house for various reasons will always leave with a box of food. I live in a small town which has been quite transient over the last 40 years. A lot of people coming and going. It's also, this is Minjibul and Darringbal country, traditional country, and there's been lots of good changes in this area, so much activism, so much community gardens and community projects that that bring people together. But with changing house prices, it is quite fractured, our community. Not fractured, but there have been changes, so a lot of people have had to leave. Personally, so many of my friends have had to leave because they can't pay the rent. A lot of the traditional owners from here can't afford to live here. So it's sort of, our town has become, in my view, less diverse, less maybe activist based, but at the same time, I'm sure, like, for people who've come recently, they actually feel much more of a sense of community. I think the best place to start, if you're able to, is to start with a small garden, and it doesn't really matter how much space you've got. You can grow in a styrofoam box or on your deck. Yeah, just start growing food.
The understanding of what actually makes a healthy soil, at the crutch of healthy plants and healthy people and healthy environment. My name's Dave Forrest. Been involved in organic agriculture since 1969. Taught for 36 years at technical and further education and the local uni, and quite a bit of consulting. But I've always had my own farm, or we've become a family farm since 1978 when we moved to Federal.
My name's Sue Mangan. We've been living in this area for about 43 years. I teach food technology, and there's a great section in that about sustainable food production. 12 years ago I retired from teaching. I did a little bit of travelling and then just got stuck into farming.
Organic farming is a holistic system, so it's not only the crop, but it's the area that it grows in, it's the water that we grow, and the other birds and animals that are around the crop, all contributing to environmental management. And people can choose to provide healthy food for their families while they're supporting the environment. And that's more and more needed these days. Organic farming is actually based on natural science. Conventional agriculture is based on industrial science. And we're actually learning more and more about how nature is something that we need to conform to. We can't control it. And so the principles work with those cycles.
The most important thing with organics, I've learned, is looking after soil. It doesn't matter how knowledgeable you are about organics, if your soil isn't good, it's not going to work. So you spend a lot of time feeding the soil. You don't feed the plants, by the way, you feed the soil and look after the soil. And it makes a big difference, just protecting and conserving your soil. Knowing too that you're selling a very safe product that hasn't got any sprays or anything that might cause contraindications with people, and people here really appreciate that.
Then you look at the other downsides of inorganic chemistry. Look at the damage it causes to the environment. All the things that would help protect your crops also get killed by those broad spectrum sprays. The deforestation and lack of biodiversity in the area also contributes to that. So organic farms have to have biodiversity.
Well, we've got quite a wide range of produce. We've got tree crops, citrus and macadamias. We also grow the long-term crops like garlic, ginger and turmeric. And since I've been involved, we've been growing far more market garden type vegetables with a quick turnover. So we grow probably a range of up to 20. We don't kind of go too big, and it's been pretty good. I mean, this is a very good growing climate, but we do have episodes like the hailstorm and sometimes massive rainfall, and that really does impact. We've got actually an organic growers group, and it's open. It was originally open to farmers, but now we have a lot of people who are home gardeners or just people with interest. It's not huge, but we run events. We put out a magazine twice a year, and I think that does build a community, because you get the same people coming and talking, and then they come to the markets. So it definitely does foster a like-minded group. I moved around quite a bit as a child, and I didn't have a very strong sense of connection with places I lived in, though I have been here for 40 years now. And I think with having children and a farm, when I say you put your roots down, you literally do, with your plants and your children and yourself. And yeah, I think I've got a sense of identity here. We're well known for being pioneers in organic agriculture, and I think too, having the position here on the market as president really does give me a sense of who I am and where I am. I think the farmers markets are great too, because it takes away from the supermarkets, who really do control prices and what people are eating. And when people come to the farmers market, it really puts them in touch with what is growing in different seasons. And this opens up a good conversation and dialogue between your consumers and farmers here. And that's what's so good about farmers markets, because you've got your farmer there at the interface.
My name's Ali Godfrey, and I manage the Mullum and New Brighton farmers markets, and I've been managing them for 12 years. I used to work in the corporate world, like many of us did, and I used to sell media programs to top 200 brands. One of the brands I worked on was Shell Oil, and they basically told us that they'd seen the error of their ways and they were replanting rainforests. I went out to one of their plantations when I was travelling through Borneo, and I thought I'd go and check out, see what they've done. And their idea of replanting ancient rainforests was planting a monocrop of palm oil. I remember just standing in the field thinking they'd lied to me. So I decided that I wanted to study permaculture. The more I travelled, the more I cared about the earth, the more I got into understanding about the importance of fresh local produce, and I guess I started investigating the state of the current food systems. And I used to come to the farmers markets every week with a leaf eaten, and something was going down with it, so I'd say, what's going on? Anyway, the farmers literally a month later said to me, we're looking for a new manager, but we need somebody that's got a background in advertising and media that can help us get the markets pumping, but also has maybe studied permaculture and has an interest in food sustainability. When I started, it was a bit of a blank canvas. Just looking back on what farmers markets used to stand for in communities, sort of, going back generations ago, it was always the centre of community. I asked them to triple all the seating because I wanted to make a space that the community could come together and meet every week. I also asked if we could have a kids space because I noticed some of the young mums were struggling. But the main thing that sort of drove those decisions was the mission statement of the market: close the gaps between consumers and farmers and connect with community. And I think the supermarket model has really sort of gone a long way to not only sort of ruin our food systems, but also people no longer know who they're buying from. People aren't accountable, whereas when you come to the farmers markets, you're meeting the person that's growing your food, and the money that you spend with them is going back into community as well. So when the food's grown locally and it hasn't travelled, you're eating food that is it's freshest and nutrient rich. Once people have come to the markets and they've tasted how good the food should taste, they will come back. And having farmers markets enables local farmers to make a living with the direction that supermarkets led with monocropping, etc. They now want 1,000 boxes, and they all have to look a certain way. So people then are to meet that requirement, they're having to use chemicals and they're having to use different storage methods, and the food's often travelled for miles and miles. So, you know, actually having, you know, supporting local farmers enables not only, you know, for us to be able to bring fresh food at affordable prices to the community, it enables the farmers to have a fair price as well. And, you know, most people think when they're buying veggies from the supermarket that they're getting, you know, nutrient-rich, good quality food, and often that food is like just lost all of its nutrients because the soil that it's been grown in, you know, has had all those chemicals, it's killing all the sort of goodness that's in the soil. And, you know, our bodies are seriously lacking from all of, you know, nutrients that you should be getting from our local food. So it's really, really important to support local food systems. So we introduced the wash-up station probably about 8 or 9 years ago, and straight away I reduced my waste by a third. So we're now looking to move towards a waste-free market, which will involve using reusables. We're encouraging people to bring their own vessels as well. With food waste, people get educated by the farmers if the banana's got a few marks on it, or, you know, if the avocado's got a few little marks. And that's part of the education from the farmers too. Encourage people that, you know, the food is still perfectly fine. If it's not perfect, it's often just proof that it has been organically grown. The important thing about farmers markets is because they're generally using, you know, sustainable farming methods that practice diversity, they're more resilient when there's, you know, various like weather systems. So, you know, when you've got something that's such, you know, with supermarkets supporting industrialised farming, that's, you know, large scale monocropping, it's coming at the cost of the earth, at the cost of our health, it's unsustainable during natural disasters. So I think that farmers markets, you know, really lead the way as far as having a blueprint for sustainable food systems, and I think we need more of them. And the more people that sort of learn to practice, you know, sustainable food systems, the better, because, you know, we are facing, you know, a growing population, we're facing food shortage, you know, and an ageing population of farmers. So it's important, you know, to make time for your generation and, you know, hand down the skills, because we need to know how to look after ourselves. There's nothing more important than growing foods. Now when people come to the area and, you know, they say they want to meet the community, you just need to come to one of our markets and you'll meet the whole colourful community.
Who's been awesome here today?
I'm Obi. I work in the grounds of the community garden. I'm actually president of the community gardens. We put on a community lunch for about 40 to 50 people each week, and we grow as much as we can in the garden here and buy a little bit of some organic food places around town, and we do our shopping at the food co-op, which is just on the property here. And we put a meal on and just invite the public to come in, or anyone to come and have lunch with us. We have a lot of volunteers, so it started off with just stopping at lunchtime after we worked half a day and, you know, having a lunch together. So it grew from that. Yeah, so we've been doing it for the past 3 years now. So it stopped over the COVID, so it probably stopped for two odd years then. But it was going for quite a few years, and it was quite a bit bigger beforehand, so we're rebuilding it now. We've grown as much as possible ourselves from what we can produce ourselves. It really brings people together. They can share, you know, what they've been doing, some fun times, and quite often we get musicians come in. That's quite a nice thing to have going on. Yeah, it's bringing people together, you know, chats and stuff. So there's been many guests that come just from the public, come for the lunch. They see what's going on here and speak to people that are involved here and want to get involved. This volunteer day is on the lunch day. Anyone wants something to eat and they haven't got any money, I'm going to serve them food. People sometimes can't afford it, so we say, oh yeah, can you empty that bucket and here's a plate of food. On the lunch days we have people come specifically for that day as a social gathering. They like the energy and the vibe of it. And it's always fresh, organic cooked stuff, and it creates conversations and allows people to sort of connect and communicate, which you can see physically happening while you're sitting there doing it. You offer a meal to anyone at any group, and it brings people together. I mean, it's a great tool or a way to actually bring people together to, you know, open communication pathways and friendships, open friendships, and get those sorts of things happening. And then, even if there's a bit of contention and angst and things, being able to be relaxed, having something to eat together, and being able to create a pathway for those things to come up also happens. I guess it's, for me, it's fun. It's you know, it's exercise. It's doing things that make you happy. It's basically what makes the world more beautiful.